Welcome into this Week 4 edition of Buffalo Bills Weekly, where we take you behind the curtain at One Bills Drive. He's Chris Brown, I'm Maddy Glab. In this week's episode, we're going to recap the last 3 weeks from this exciting Buffalo Bills team. You're going to hear some of the best press conference clips from this week. We're going to preview a huge Sunday Night Football matchup against the Ravens, and we're going into enemy territory. Ravens fan and comedian Stavros tells us if he thinks the Ravens are for real. Chris, from one gauntlet to another. The Bills are about to have their third straight primetime game, and they're about to start a 3-game road stretch. What normal schedule?
Well, right, but this is why you can't get complacent even if you are a 3-0 team like the Bills are right now, because the schedule, to your point, gets considerably more challenging. On the road against the Ravens, on the road against the Texans, on the road against the Jets on Monday Night Football 3 weeks from now. This is like a mini gauntlet, if you will.
The Bills have the best offense in the NFL. They're averaging 37 points per game. In last week's game against the Jaguars, 6 different players scored a touchdown. 10 different players caught a pass from Josh Allen. They're spreading the ball out and they're making it look so easy. Why is doing something like that putting so much stress on opposing defenses?
Well, because they don't know where to turn first. And what coordinators want to do defensively against the Bills, identify the matchups. Who do we want to stop? Obviously, Josh Allen is going to be priority number one every single week. But then you look at the skilled position players he has to choose from, and you can make an argument right now that you want to make Cook a priority, or you want to make Shakir a priority. You can even argue you want to make Kincaid a priority. That becomes difficult to cover all those bases with a bona fide game plan in a given week. So they not only give defensive coordinators headaches, it's a migraine. It's a migraine. There's a lot to think about.
You know who else gives opposing defenses a migraine? It's our quarterback, Josh Allen. He leads the NFL with 9 total touchdowns and has a 133 passer rating through 3 games. What's the difference in Allen this year versus the last 6 years, Chris?
I think there's a maturation that we've seen from Josh this year, and I think it deals primarily with risk versus reward. We can reference a number of instances in the last 6 years where he has probably put too much risk out there in putting the ball at risk, turning the ball over by going for the 40-yard touchdown shot instead of maybe taking a wide open check down. Last week I saw a specific play. He thought about taking a shot at the end zone in a tight window, but he checked it down to James Cook. It goes for 15 yards. And they live for another down, first down, fresh set of downs, and the drive continues and they end up putting that in the end zone. That's the difference.
The offense isn't the only one who's shining through 3 games by putting up 37 points per game. The defense is helping them do it. They have 6 takeaways in just 3 games. That ties for the 3rd most. We hear coaches say it all the time. It starts up front. Well, the Bills' defensive line is doing a great job. They have 11 sacks. That ties for 5th most in the NFL, and it's not just the starters. How are the rotational defensive linemen playing a huge role as well?
Yeah, it's about consistency of play, right? And when you roll that second group in, you don't want to see a drop off, and for the most part those guys have done a heck of a job. Austin Johnson made some plays in the run front in week 2 against Miami. Casey Toohill shows up last week, jumps on a fumble, also has a sack. And then you even look at Javon Solomon, the draft choice, gets his first game action as a pro and gets a strip sack at the end of the game. When those guys can contribute in that way, there's quite literally no drop off, so there's no let up on the defensive front.
We've got a lot left in the show. Coming up, you're going to hear from our players, and we're going to preview Sunday Night Football against the Baltimore Ravens.
When we return, Maddy Glab interviews comedian Stavros Halkias in this week's episode of You Heard. And then later, catch the press conference highlights in Soundbite Roundup.
Hey, this is Stavros, and you just heard.
Welcome into another episode of You Heard, where we chat with athletes, celebrities, and influencers about their NFL fandom. Today, we've got stand-up comedian and huge Ravens fan Stavros joining us. Stavros, thanks so much for taking the time to get ready for Sunday Night Football with us. The Ravens are facing the Bills on Sunday Night Football. The Bills are going to head to Baltimore for the game. It's their first of 3 straight away games this season. First of the pack of 3 away games. We've already had 1 this season. But the Bills have been pretty good against the Ravens in the recent past. They've been good at defending Lamar Jackson. That's something that they've always been able to do in the last few matchups against this team. If you think about the matchup, what are some of your first thoughts about this game?
Well, look, we got to get this game. I feel, you're very nice. I feel bad for, I really like Buffalo. Great. Look, the wing, you came up with the wing. I've had thousands of your city's creation over 10, maybe tens of thousands in my lifetime. My buddy Joe Pera, huge Buffalo Bills fan. We've had me and him go back and forth on it all the time. And I don't want to say it because it's like obviously I root for Baltimore first and foremost, but whenever we're out of the playoffs, I root for the Bills. You deserve it. A lot of heartbreak in that city, all that kind of stuff. Great town. I like a city that industry has abandoned. That's the same thing as Baltimore. We're just doing our best, right? So I like Buffalo, but we got to get right here. We need it. You guys will be cruising. Maybe you might, we're talking before the Jags game, but like if you're coming in 3-0, that's a trap game for you. You're not, yeah, you're not. And look, who knows? You might lose. Trevor Lawrence might have some up his sleeve for you. I don't think so. But if you're coming in 3-0, we desperately need that. And also, yeah, you've defended us good. But I think this is a year for you guys where a lot's on, and Josh Allen rules. Again, I hate to give you these many compliments when we're facing you. It
Keep them
really
coming.
is
Keep them
breaking my
coming.
heart. But I love him. He's cool. He's really cool. He's good. He's awesome at football, obviously. But I just feel like a little bit, you guys are going to face a little reality. You had to let go of a lot of players. This feels like a year where you had to like get your cap right. A lot of like the defense is gone. Some of like they're either gone or aging. I think with this running game, we are going to run the ball. And I think hopefully each week our defense hopefully gets a little better. We have a new coordinator. Of course, I'm scared. I respect Josh. I won't say I fear him. I respect him. But at the end of the day, we just need it more. I think you're going to see a statement game from the Ravens because you're good. How about this little backhanded compliment? Because you're so good, it's going to mean a lot more to us. And you can deal with one loss if you're 3-0. It's fine. Let's balance it out.
I don't know if Bills Mafia is going to be okay with dealing with one loss. We'll see how this Sunday
I'm
night
sorry.
game
Yeah, yeah,
goes.
yeah,
But
yeah.
you were talking about being a fan of wings and just, the vibes in Buffalo, similar to
Of course,
Baltimore and the
good
makeup of a
vibes.
city. I feel like you'd fit in with Bills Mafia pretty well.
I really would. I love Buffalo because it's a place where the fat man is respected. You know what I mean? It's a place where the plus size community is thriving in Buffalo. I if I lived in
Take
Buffalo, no
10,
problem
take 10
finding
extra
shirts.
wings.
Take an extra wing. I like any place where every man's chair has like a groove where they have just watched Bills football for over 10 years. Like they sink into their couch or chair. I really love Buffalo, truly. Like that's the, kind of the frustrating thing when we go head to head because I do want a city like that to succeed. A fat city with nothing but treats everywhere, with a team that's good, that hasn't won yet. You do deserve a victory. I think I'd like to get one more before I start rooting for you guys, with my whole heart, but I would love it. There's maybe a scenario where I retire in Buffalo.
We'll be right back on You Heard. Stay tuned. Stavros, you're known for your crowd work. You're incredible in a room with people, picking people out, asking them questions, and then riffing off of that. You spoke about, hey, maybe I'll retire in Buffalo. Maybe I'll be a Bills Mafia fan as I finish out my NFL fandom. Have you ever done a show in Buffalo? I feel like you would be
Oh
awesome
yeah,
at crowd work in Buffalo.
had some great time. Yeah, great shows in Buffalo. I did. I was in Buffalo Helium a few years ago. Did plenty of crowd work. Met some people that were thrown, not allowed into Canada. They were so rowdy in Buffalo. Talked to a tire mechanic in Buffalo. So yeah, got a couple clips out there with me interacting with some of Buffalo's finest. So absolutely, I love it. I love it. It's a great comedy town. I might be there. I might actually try and get there this fall, this winter at some point because I'm doing a big tour next year. So I'm trying to do some warm up shows. So who knows?
That would
But
be
yeah, I love it.
awesome. When did you realize that comedy was for you?
I just always liked it, and I was 19. I started doing open mics, and then you just look up one day, and you're a 35-year-old man with no other way to make a living. So it's just like it was one of those things where I was kind of stuck, but I love it, and it's just I couldn't have a real job, and I got insanely lucky that this worked out. I didn't plan ahead. I'm not a big planner. Every year was like, this feels fine, and then we just ended up here. So I'll take it.
Everybody has a moment in their careers where they're like, okay, I feel like this is a defining moment for my career. I mean, you're on Netflix, you host a bunch of podcasts, you've appeared in several comedies, you've done several things with Barstool as well. Was there a moment in the lead up to all of that where you felt like you really started to get a lot of attention?
Yeah, I mean, again, super surprised that it happened, but I just kind of started posting clips. And it's a really weird thing to feel like you made it just by putting stuff on the internet for free. But that's what happened. One day, people were like, "Hey, I liked your video." And that happened. I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And then it just kept happening. And then from there on, I mean, getting a Netflix special, getting to be, I was in Tires, which is my buddy Shane Gillis' show, Shane Gillis and John McKeever. And that was in the top 10 of Netflix for like 2 weeks. So just really surreal stuff. And I wrote last year was just a crazy year for me where a lot of this stuff happened that I still am super lucky to have happened. And I wrote and starred in a movie that's coming out October 25th, Let's Start a Cult. So it's been crazy. Last year was insane. And, I'm just kind of coasting off those accomplishments, maybe for the rest of my life. Maybe that was it, to be honest with you. But hey, we had a good run.
I don't think so. I think there's much more to come in your career because you are funny. We always ask our guests what their hottest take is of the team that they cheer for. So, do you have a hot Ravens take for us?
My hot take is maybe it's not hot, but it's like we're good. We're fine. It's a couple. All we got to do is hope no one gets injured. We got a running back that defies logic. We couldn't run the ball last year when it mattered. Now we have an unstoppable running game when it gets going. We're going to figure it out. No panicking, Baltimore. We got this. We're good. No issues yet. That's my hot take. And maybe I'm even trying to convince myself. Maybe I'm even trying to convince myself right now, but that's what it is. We did it. We won. We'll be fine. It starts, unfortunately for Buffalo, it starts with a nice get-right game against you. And then we're cruising, baby. We're doing good.
There's no get-right game against Buffalo. Come on. The Bills are too good to say it's a get-right.
Sorry.
Put some
We needed
respect on their name. Stavros, thank you so much for previewing this huge Sunday Night Football matchup against the Baltimore Ravens. You guys have a lot of talent there, and every year I know our fans and this team looks forward to going up against you guys when we do get to face you because of the fact that it's a good matchup. It's good on good, which is what helps teams better. So
yes, iron sharpens iron, baby.
There you go. We'll see how it goes. But thanks for the time, and we'll make sure we catch this new movie coming up too.
Yeah, please do. Awesome.
When we return, catch the highlights from this week's press conferences in Soundbite Roundup.
Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson on the same team, and each and every week, I remember watching the very first game when they played the Kansas City Chiefs, and that first drive, it just looked scary. I just say that, just keeping it 100. It just looks scary with the type of offensive line that they have, and they got Derrick Henry back there, and Lamar Jackson always has the threat to take the ball and run it. And I think on that very first drive with the Chiefs, they ran 6 or 7 plays, all runs, and it was straight down the field and into the end zone.
We talking about the MVP of the league. You don't slow a guy down like that, you know what I'm saying? You just have to go out there and try to execute the game plan as best you know how. I remember playing a guy in college and at Louisville, and he was just a guy. And from then going on to the league, and he's still being the guy and winning MVP and all the accolades he's accumulated over the years. Like, you just gotta, it's one of them games, like, you just gotta go out there and just try your best and try to minimize, I guess.
I think he's an inspiration to a lot of people in this country. The the way that he plays the game, the doubters that he had coming out and asking to switch positions early on, and then for him to show the resiliency and the work ethic and the attitude to go forward and win 2 MVPs. You know, guys around the league, they see that. He's really changed the way that I think guys play the game. But make no mistake about it, he can throw the snot out of the football, and got a lot of respect for him, a lot of love for him. Love watching him play because every play is never dead with him. You know, he's got a crazy ability to keep plays alive and make guys miss and then get the ball downfield. So he's a special player.
You know, what we've been doing here with the Buffalo Bills is just keeping it simple and just playing our game. You know, not really just focusing in on the results. Just going in and playing football, keeping it simple, keeping the expectations down, and just playing our game. And that's been working for us, and that's the type of mindset that we're bringing to this game as well.
You know, when you're the underdog, you kind of have that chip on your shoulder, but we try to keep that same mentality, like just focus on us, ignore the noise. As soon as you start feeling the weight of expectations, I think it can really weigh you down and be a distraction. So I think just keeping our expectations the same as they've always been, focusing on us, not getting too caught up in what everyone else is saying. We're really just the old cliche of taking it one day at a time, not making one game bigger than the next, focusing on what we do best, playing our best game is the most important thing.
Welcome back into Buffalo Bills Weekly. The Bills have their 3rd straight primetime game on deck, Sunday Night Football against the Baltimore Ravens. Like the Bills, Baltimore has had a lot of turnover this offseason. They've said bye to 3 starting offensive linemen and 2 huge stars on defense in linebackers Patrick Queen and Jadeveon Clowney. Unlike the Bills, Baltimore has had a hard time figuring things out. They're 1-2 to start the season. Why are they still trying to figure out who they are as a football team right now, Chris?
Yeah, I think it traces back to their new defensive coordinator, Zach Orr. This is the first time he's calling plays, first time in a coordinator role. He's the 2nd youngest coordinator in football at age 31, and he's chosen to do it down on the sidelines, calling plays down there, unlike the Bills coordinators. And I think it's just been a little disjointed with the play calls and the consistency on the field. It's going to be interesting to see. I think they'll eventually get it. Hopefully it's not this week, but I think it's led to some of that inconsistency on the back end of this defense. They've given up an NFL high 17 plays of 20 yards or more.
They're the best against the run, allowing just 50 rushing yards per game. But in the air, they're the worst defense in the NFL, allowing an average of 292 passing yards per game through the air. That's a huge number. How can the Bills take advantage of this lopsided defense?
Yeah, I'm curious to kind of see what the approach is here, because I think Baltimore is going to try to speed up Josh's processing of what is coming at him pre-snap, because Jaguars did not do that at all last week. He had all day to kind of figure out what was coming at him, and then he had his decision made before the ball was even snapped. So I'm expecting simulated pressures from the Ravens to try to cross him up with his pre-snap thinking, and then blitz on occasion, not a lot because Josh is good against the blitz, and then I think some coverages, they're going to spin the dial a little bit and just try to make Josh a little unsure of what the picture is and hope that pays dividends.
They have a mobile quarterback in Lamar Jackson who won MVP last year. He's scary to go up against. Well, they got even scarier in the offseason by adding a running back in Derrick Henry, who 2 times led the NFL in rushing yards and rushing touchdowns. What is the recipe to slowing down a running back like Derrick Henry, Chris?
Yeah, well, it starts with sound gap integrity. That's number one. And then it's getting hats to the football, because it's very hard for one guy to get him to the ground. And if he gets off early, that presents a second problem, because now Baltimore can use play action off of that, because you have to respect Derrick Henry so much. Linebackers are cheating up, and that exposes voids behind the linebackers in the middle of the field. You don't want to go down that road.
The Bills have had a tough time against Henry in 4 games since 2019. Henry has scored 7 rushing touchdowns and averages 75 rushing yards per game. So it'll be interesting to see if they have a different type of recipe in this game.
Yeah, and the thing is, you've seen the Bills against Derrick Henry, you've seen the Bills against Lamar Jackson. You haven't seen them in a game against both of them in terms of what the defensive approach should be. I'm very curious to see what Bobby Babbage and Sean McDermott have in store.
What's the difference in facing Jackson this time around?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's because you have to respect Henry, so your focus may drift a little from Jackson. I think the guys up front are the key to that, though. Discipline in their rush lanes, don't leave gaps in the pass rush because he'll exploit them, shoot through it, and now he's off and running. He historically is far less accurate as a passer with throws outside the numbers. Give him those. Don't give him anything in between the numbers in the middle of the field.
You can catch the game this Sunday, September 29th on NBC, Universo, and Telextos. Chris will be on the radio with the call, so to hear him and Bills legend Eric Wood, you can listen to WGR 550. We'll see if the Bills defense will have their way with an all-pro in Derrick Henry and an MVP quarterback in Lamar Jackson. If so, they'll be 4-0 to start the season. We want to thank you so much for tuning into Buffalo Bills Weekly. For Chris Brown, I'm Maddy Glab. We'll see you next time.